My name is Amaka and you're welcome to Lizama's Stitches. If you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please click on the subscribe button and subscribe, and also turn on the notification bell so that whenever I upload new videos, you'll be notified. In this tutorial, we'll be learning how to make a short butterfly dress with cowl neck. So let's get started. I've drawn some lines already. Now this is my starting point, which is also going to serve as my shoulder line. This is my waist point. This is my hip point. This is the full length of the top. This is my hemming allowance. Now from shoulder to waist point is 13.5 inches. From shoulder to hip point is 21.5 inches. Then the full length of the dress is 31.5 inches. I'm going to take my shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 14 inches. 14 divided by 2 gives you 7 inches. So this is 7 inches. Now the sleeve length is 10 inches. So from this shoulder point, from this line, from this mark, I'm going to take my sleeve length. Now the sleeve length is 10 inches and this is 10 inches. 10 inches plus 1 inch for seam allowance, which I'm going to use to fold here. So what I have here is 18 inches. Another way you can take this measurement is by taking your measurement from your center back to wherever you want your sleeve to end. That's another way you can do this. So I'm going to take my neck measurement. Now the neck width I'm working with is 4 inches. The front neck width is 4 inches. The front neck depth is 5 inches. The back neck width is 4 inches. And the back neck depth is 1 inch. So I'll connect it. I'll connect it with my French curve. From this point, I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches for my shoulder slope. I'll connect this point to this point. I'm going to take my armhole measurement. My armhole measurement is 16 inches. 16 divided by 2 gives you 8 inches. Now because of the style of this dress, I'm going to add 3 inches to my divided armhole measurement. Now 3 plus 8 gives you 11 inches. So from this point, I'm going to mark 11 inches. From this point, I'm going to mark 11 inches. So this is my 11 inches. So I'm going to extend it. I'm going to extend this point to this point. It's an horizontal line. So this is my chest point. So on my chest point, I'm going to take my bust measurement on my chest point. Now my bust circumference is 38 inches. 38 divided by 4 gives you 9.5 inches. So I'm going to mark 9.5 inches here. Now 9.5 inches plus 1 inch for ease gives you 10.5 inches. So I'm going to mark 10.5 inches here. Now on this line, on my waist point, I'm going to take my waist measurement on my waist point. My waist circumference is 32 inches. 32 divided by 4 gives you 8 inches. Plus 1 inch for ease gives you 9 inches. So I'm going to mark 9 inches here. Now on my hip point, I'm going to take my hip measurement on my hip point. Now my hip circumference is 40 inches. 40 divided by 4 gives you 10 inches. Plus 1 inch for ease gives you 11 inches. Now the same measurement I have here, I'm going to bring it down here. Okay, so what I have here is 11 inches. Now this is the hem of my dress, and I marked 11 inches, and I'm also going to mark 11 inches here on the hemming allowance. I'm going to mark 11 inches. So I'm going to connect these points. So I'll connect this point to this point, just like this. And I'll connect this point to this point with my hip curve. I'll connect this point to this point. Now, because of the style of this dress, now this dress is a butterfly dress. I'm not cutting off anything, but I'm going to cut the neck. I'm going to cut the neck and the shoulder, then I'll separate the front panel from the back panel and trim the front, after which I'm going to join the two together again and transfer this line to the other side. Now another thing I'm going to do is to trim here. I'm going to trim this point. I'm going to curve this point. So I'm going to curve it just like this. Now with your free hand, you can use your free hand to do it. You just curve it. Curve it with your free hand. I'm going to trim out this part. Another thing I'm going to do is to add seam allowance on the shoulder. I'm adding 1/2 inch seam allowance on the shoulder. I'm going to cut it. I'll start by cutting the back neckline. And I'll cut the shoulder. After that, I'm going to cut the lower part. I'm going to cut here, the lower part. So after that, the next thing I'll do is, now because of the style of this dress, I'm going to separate the front panel from the back panel so that I'll be able to trim the neck, the front neck. I'll bring it back together again, and I'll transfer this line to the other side, to this other side. Because I'm not cutting this fabric, I'm going to sew on this line. So after trimming the front neck, I'm going to come back. I'm going to join the front panel and the back panel together again. So let me separate the front from the back. You have to do it gently. So I'll trim the front neck. Now I'm going to bring back the back. I'll bring back the back panel and I'll put it back again. Now whatever you're doing, you have to do it gently. So is to transfer this line. I'm going to transfer this line to this other side. I'll transfer this line to this other side. Now this is how I'll do it. So this is my chest point. Now I'm going to put my hand on this line and I'll transfer it. Now I'm touching my finger. So I'm going to mark here. This is my chest point. Now this is my waist point. I'm going to put my finger here and I'm touching my finger from this part. So I'm going to mark here. This is my waist point. Now this is my hip point. This is my hip point. I'm going to put my finger here and I'll mark here. The same thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to do here. So I'm going to connect these points. So I've connected them. So the next thing I'm going to do is this. I'm going to pin this down. I'm going to pin this. So when I open it like this, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine. I'm going to sew on this line. I'm not cutting off this part. I'm going to sew on this line and I'll sew on this line. But before I sew on this line, I'm going to join the shoulder first. I'm going to join the shoulder first. I'll join the shoulder. Then I'll sew on this line and I'll sew on this line. Now after that, I'm going to attach the neck. But let me join it and show you. I've sewn the dress. I started by joining the shoulder. The first thing I did was to pin down this point, the sides. I pinned down the sides, and I pinned down the both sides. Then after pinning it down, I had to turn it inside out to the wrong side, and I started by sewing the shoulder. After sewing the shoulder, after sewing the shoulder, I had to sew the sides. After sewing the sides, I now hemmed the sides and the lower parts. The next thing I'm going to do is to finish the neck. Now this is the caul. This is the caul. I'm going to fold it into two. Now this is how I'm going to fold it. I'm going to start by sewing it from the back. Now this is the midpoint of the back neckline. This is the midpoint of the back neckline. I'm going to sew here. Now I'm going to start by sewing this one, not this. I'm going to leave this first. From here I'm going to leave 1/2 inch seam allowance, which I'm going to use to join this side to this other side. Now from here I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to place it this way. Now I'm placing it. Now when I fold it like this, I'm going to fold it wrong side facing wrong side. The right side is going to be outside. Then I'm going to place the right side on the wrong side of the back panel, and I'm going to sew it. I'm going to sew it this way. I'm going to sew it all round. I'm going to sew it to this point, and I'm going to come back to this point. This is my top. Now I've sewn here. Now here I left 1/2 inch seam allowance here, which I'm going to use to join this one and this one together. I'm going to use to join these together. Now I held here. Now I used 1/2 inch seam allowance to sew here. sew here to this point. The next thing I'm going to do now, I have half-inch seam allowance here which I have ironed. Now this is it. I've ironed half-inch seam allowance. So this is how I'm going to sew it. I'm going to push in this seam allowance and push in this seam allowance, and I'm going to place this on this just like this, and I'll sew it. I'm going to sew it in such a way that you're not going to see the seam allowance and you're not going to see this seam allowance, just for me to have a perfect finishing. So I'm going to do it and show you the finished look of this top. So I'm done sewing. Now this is it. From here, if you look at it from here, you'll see that you're not seeing the seam allowance, and from here you're not also seeing it. It's inside. So this is it. If you found this tutorial helpful, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Feel free to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Lizama Stitches. We've come to the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.